They say prison is where you lose your freedom. I lost my sense of direction when the bars were replaced by floor-to-ceiling windows and white marble. The cuffs bite into my wrists each time the car takes a curve along the cliff road. Salt rattles in the air like ground glass. To my left, the ocean chews on the rocks. To my right, the city's skeleton. Steel. Piers, cranes like giant rib bones. Glitters with a cold, moneyed shine. Comfy back there? The driver asks, eyes on the mirror. I've had worse, I say, shifting so the chain clinks just loud enough to annoy him. Once I was duct taped to a radiator that still worked. This leather doesn't even squeak. The guard beside me snorts. You talk too much. That's the rumor. That, and my devastating charm. We pass iron gates the size of a ship's hull. They open without a sound. What waits beyond is not a precinct, not even a safe house. It's a clifftop palace, all pale stone, glass and lines so clean they look surgical. The ocean flings itself at the rocks below, like it wants to climb up and get in. The driver parks under a cantilevered awning that could probably land a helicopter. The guard tugs me out. My boots thud on slate. It's colder up here, the kind of cold that smells like rain and steel. He's waiting on the steps, tall, broad-shouldered, cut from shadow and polish. Dark suit, collar open by a single disobedient button. No weapon I can see. Never comforting. Eyes like winter water taking soundings of a wreck. Lyon, I say. Because pretending I don't recognize the new head of illegal mark hunters would be insulting to both our intelligences. Where's the part where I'm processed, stamped, and filed? This is processing, he says in a voice that could file metal. Welcome to your cell. I glance up at the endless panes of glass. The ocean stares right back. And here I thought I'd get bars. Your cell has an ocean view, he says. Consider me a humanitarian. I'll send a thank you card. I smile. From captivity. He turns and I'm walked inside under a chandelier that looks like captured lightning. The foyer is a cathedral of white marble floors flecked with something that catches light like frost, a spiral of staircase winding up into quiet. Every surface is expensive, and says so in fluent silence. Even my footsteps learn to whisper. They take me down a gallery walled in ocean. At the end, a door opens on a room big enough to hide 3 smaller rooms inside. Minimalist furniture, soft gray sheets. A view that eats my attention whole. Somewhere, hidden in the tasteful lines, cameras watch. Red-lighted fireflies with no wings. Nice, I say. Do I get a mint on the pillow or is that for inmates with loyalty cards? The guard is stone. Lyon steps closer. Up close he smells like cedar and ozone. Storm clean, not sweet. He holds a thin band the color of old moonlight between 2 fingers. The band hums, barely. Inhibitor, he says. I've met a few. I offer my wrists with a flourish. They were less chic. He doesn't cuff my wrists. He catches my left hand and turns it palm up, thumb pressed to the heel where a faint scar hides under my skin like a bad memory. The metal kisses my wrist. Cold blooms, clean and cruel. A filament of pain threads the bones and dissolves. The band settles, flush with skin. A brief static bloom prickles my forearm, smelling like the moment before a light bulb pops. Comfortable? He asks, like a frostbite bracelet. What's the return policy? He steps back without answering. His gaze slides over the room, as if measuring it again now that I'm in it. The air is so quiet I can hear the tick of my own heartbeat. Underneath it, the slow argument of the waves. Eat, Lyon says, nodding toward the covered tray on the console. Shower. Sleep. You missed, roll over, and play dead. I assumed you'd improvise. The corner of his mouth thinks about movement. Then chooses restraint. You'll speak to me in the morning. About what? The market, he says. And why you keep running headlong toward it. I tip my head, lazy. Thought you brought me here to file me away. I brought you here because the lockup leaks, he says. And because I prefer my witnesses alive. Witnesses? I laugh. It sounds thinner than I intended. That mean I get a badge? It means you get a room. He gestures at the window. And a choice. Behind him, the guard touches the panel, the door slides shut with a sigh. 2 sounds remain. My breathing and the oceans. I walk to the glass and put my forehead against it. Cold leaches in. The city stretches to the left like a silver trap. To the right, the wide open dark. If this is prison, it's for aesthetes. But I'll still break the door. I test the band with a twitch of my fingers. It hums, a coiled warning. Somewhere in the circuitry, my body's chemistry introduces itself, and the band smiles back with polite hostility. Trying to charm the hardware? Lyon's voice. Closer than I expected. I didn't hear him cross the room. He stands at my shoulder, reflected twice over in the window. One lion made of glass and sea, one made of patience and pressure. Just making friends, I say. Try the walls, he says. They have better boundaries. We stand there a beat, sharing the view without agreeing to it. The waves strike the rock and shatter, again and again, committed to a ritual no one asked them to perform. What do you really want, Lyon? I ask softly. His reflection meets my eyes, cool and unreadable. Results. From me. From the people who think they own you. His gaze drops to the band at my wrist, then returns to the ocean. Eat. The head starts working again when the body does. He moves away, footsteps silent. The door opens on his shadow and the faintest taste of static. He pauses. When he speaks, it's almost gentle. Don't try to run, Nix, he says. Even the wind is under surveillance here. The door closes. The ocean keeps chewing at the cliff. I stare at my reflection until it starts to look like a stranger, then turn to the tray, lift the lid, and find steam rising from something simple and warm. Humanitarian, I murmur, and pick up the fork anyway. The house doesn't sleep, it idles. The kind of quiet that makes your ears invent sounds. Footsteps that aren't there. A whisper in the vents, the ocean rehearsing a confession beneath the cliff. I lie on the bed until the sheets feel like a trap, then slide out, and test the inhibitor with 2 fingers. It gives a warning buzz. The polite threat of an electric fence. Message received, I whisper, and ease the door. The corridor is a vein of soft light running the length of the house. Cameras are tucked where crown molding would be in less paranoid architecture. I keep to the shadows like they can still remember me, then cross a spill of moonlight to the next patch of dark. The ocean drags at the rocks below. Something in the air has shifted. Static, the breath before rain. A smell catches me at the turn, green tea and citrus. Clean as a fresh bruise. I follow it the way a moth follows a flame it's already married. The kitchen is all glass and counter, the night wrapped around it like silk. Under a pendant lamp the color of soft honey, Lyon is pouring hot water over leaves. Sleeves pushed to his forearms, the rigid lines of his day undone by an inch. I pause in the doorway. Of all the ways I pictured him off duty, making tea like a patient storm wasn't on the list. He doesn't look up. You're out of bed. You put me in a room with a view and a bracelet, I say, stepping in. The floor warms the soles of my feet, a luxury I refuse to admire. Sleep felt performative. He sets the kettle down. Tea? From a warden? I cock my head. Do wardens come in bergamot now? Sencha, he corrects mildly. And I'm not your warden. No? I lean against the island, watching steam curl like a tame ghost. What are you tonight then? Concierge? Night manager? His mouth considers a line that might one day become a smile. Decides against it. Alive, he says simply, and pushes a second cup toward me. I don't drink it. I let it sit between us, a small hot sun. Your PR will love this. Head of hunters humanizes captives with herbal options. Drink or don't, he says. But if you're going to prowl, keep to the blue tiles. The others have pressure sensors. Noted. I slide the cup closer, inhaling. Grass, rain, a thin ribbon of citrus. My chest loosens in spite of itself. So, this is your strategy? Hydrate the contraband out of me? Information, he says, steady. Hydration is just logistics. We look at each other over our reflections in stone black marble. The house hums softly, the ocean answers. My skin prickles, a sensation I know too well, the first stutter in a sequence I can't always stop. The inhibitor thrums against the pulse in my wrist, not quite a warning yet. I move to the window, to put more glass between us and whatever is waking in me. The night is a drowned city, lights sunk and wavering. Behind me, porcelain kisses porcelain, a kettle rests. I exhale to the count of 5. 4. 3. The wave hits on 2. A clean break. No mercy. Heat unrolls from my spine to my tongue. The inhibitor flares cold, then hotter, the way a bulb does before it bursts. The world sharpens. I can hear the tea sighing into the cup, the tiny crack noises of cooling glass, the minute shift. Of Lyon's balance as his hand closes more firmly around the handle of the water pitcher. I turn a fraction. He's stillness, pretending to be a man. The tendons in his forearm draw, a quiet warning line under skin. He presses his mouth together like he could trap air behind it. "Are you breaking discipline?" he asks, and his voice carries that calm I heard earlier, the one that files metal to edge. Only now there's pain braided into it, tight and precise. I make my face a mask I've used since I was young enough to believe masks were magic. I'm checking how made of steel you really are. Something almost happens. The air flexes, elastic and bright. The glass pitcher in his hand chirps, an absurd little sound, then spiderwebs from the grip outward. He doesn't drop it. He sets it down with surgeon care, and steps back, breath measured through his nose. A single line of water escapes and runs across the counter like a map to a place we both shouldn't go. We stand in it, the charged silence, the scent that isn't tea, the math of two bodies refusing an answer they could both solve. "Leave," Lyon says evenly. The word hits the air with the weight of a hand on the back of my neck. Not pushing. Centering. "I thought you wanted me hydrated," I say. But the joke falls too soft. Clothing without a body inside it. His eyes lift to mine. Not cold. Not empty. Contained. The kind of containment that hurts to practice. A muscle jumps in his cheek, his knuckles re-whiten over nothing. "Nix." I blink. He's never said my name like that. No rank, no title, no leash. Just my name. As if picking it up would burn. The wave creeps sideways in me, looking for a wall to break upon. I find the cup, and touch it to anchor the hand that wants to tremble. The inhibitor steadies to a miserable hum. The storm in my chest argues with itself and loses by degrees. "Go," he says, softer. "Before you turn this house into a bad decision." I turn. The floor accepts my steps like it's been waiting. At the threshold, I pause because I'm an idiot and because I've survived this long by noticing what hurts people who claim it doesn't. It's in his eyes, not hunger, not the cold that devours. Pain. The respectable, rehearsed kind. Discipline with a cost. "Are you?" I start, then abort the question and take the door with me. The corridor's light feels like a shower I forgot to turn off. The ocean keeps doing what it does. Break, mend, try again. Back in the room, I lock nothing. I sit on the edge of the bed with my hands braced on my knees until my pulse remembers how to be human. The band on my wrist is a ring of winter. Looks like iron rusts faster than I thought. Morning comes reluctantly, gray light crawling up the edge of the ocean until it paints the ceiling in pale gold. I wake to the sound of waves throwing themselves against the cliff again. Same rhythm, same self-destructive dedication. Breakfast waits on the table by the window. A single camera blinks in the corner, polite as a butler. The tray holds perfect portions. Eggs, fruit, toast, all neutral colors. I pick up the fork mostly to hear metal against porcelain. Footsteps. Lyon enters like the idea of silence put on legs, unhurried, deliberate. No jacket this time, just a black shirt rolled to his forearms. In one hand, a folder. In the other, a cup of the same tea as last night. He sits across from me without asking. I'm not sure if it's intimidation or manners. He opens the folder. Papers whisper. "You're a smuggler," he says finally, not looking up. I chew deliberately, loud enough to be petty. "You've done your homework." "I don't need homework. I need the market." Now he looks at me, sharp clinical focus. The kind of gaze that pins butterflies, or lies. "The market?" I repeat, setting my fork down. "You already have me, what more do you need? A tour guide?" His tone doesn't shift. "A key. You're the only one who can open the right doors without setting alarms." I laugh, low and easy. "So you arrest me to hire me? That's creative recruitment. Do I get dental?" "No." He turns a page. "But you get to stay alive." That should count for something. There's nothing in his voice, no cruelty, no humor. Just fact. That makes it worse. He slides a photo across the table, warehouse lights, rows of crates marked with the same sigil I've seen on too many bad nights. I force my pulse to stay even. "Illegal marks, suppressors, counterfeit hormones," he says. "Half the city's alpha elite buy purity filters from that network. I don't want them. I want the people selling. And you think I'll help you out of the goodness of my criminal heart?" He closes the folder. "No." "Out of self-preservation?" I tilt my head. That's a lot of confidence for a man who put a leash on me. "The bracelet isn't a leash," he says evenly. "It's insurance. For both of us. We hold each other's eyes, long enough that the ocean sounds further away. What's the offer? I ask, because curiosity has always been my worst habit. You help me locate and dismantle the supply chain, Lyon says. In return, your record is buried. You walk out clean. Clean, I echo, amused. You really think that word fits me? It will, if you want it to. He says it like an equation, balanced and cruel. I laugh again, though it comes out thinner this time. So that's it. You want me to sell out the people who kept me alive. That's dull even for an alpha like you. I don't want you to sell them, he says quietly. I want you to survive them. The words land somewhere I don't like. Then the screen on the wall comes to life with the soft ping of a broadcast. Lyon doesn't touch a remote. It was timed. A news anchor's voice fills the space, crisp, clinical, detached. Authorities have issued an arrest warrant for Mira Kael, former lab technician wanted in connection with illegal mark distribution. Sources say she is considered armed and unstable. My stomach drops. For a second, the room tilts. Mira's face flashes on screen, an old ID photo, pale and defiant. My partner. My best mistake. The one I told to run. Lyon studies me, expression unreadable. He doesn't say a word. I force out a laugh, brittle as glass. You're really going for the psychological warfare angle, huh? She's alive, he says. For now. But that depends on who reaches her first. Silence folds between us. The surf below sounds like a clock ticking. I stare at the newsfeed until it fades to a different story. My voice, when it comes, is rough. You want a deal? Fine. Temporary cooperation. Limited terms. Meaning I help you find your market, you don't use me as bait, and when this is over, I walk. No collar, no cage. He nods once. Agreed. That easy. Too easy. It makes me suspicious. He stands and extends a hand across the table. Then we have an arrangement. The sunlight catches on the edge of his cuff. The veins on the back of his hand are steady, disciplined. A hand that builds or breaks depending on the command. I stare at it, then grin. You know, hunters' hands are always warm. He arches a brow. Why? Because they already know who they're holding. I don't take it. I push my chair back, the legs scraping softly against stone. Behind the glass, the ocean keeps its secrets. My pulse hasn't slowed since the screen went dark. Temporary, Lyon, I say. Don't mistake that for trust. He lowers his hand, calm as ever. Trust is optional. Results are not. As I turn to leave, the camera in the corner blinks once, as if winking at me. And for the first time since I got here, I realize I'm not the only thing under surveillance. He is too. The house at night is a lung holding its breath. Lights dim to a hush. Doors forget how to creak. Cameras blink like patient stars. I move through it the way you move through a church you don't believe in, careful anyway. I found the door earlier, tucked behind a bookshelf that didn't quite meet the wall. Now I stand in front of it with a flat tool and a stubborn streak. The panel is the kind of smart that gloats. It blinks its little circle red. 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 Not tonight, I say, and slide the tool under the seam to feel for the lazy wire. Most systems have one. Something human in the loop that gets tired and cuts a corner. I pulse the tool, listen for the soft complaint of a relay giving up. The circle blinks amber, then green. Like a held breath finally let go. Inside, a room with too much air. Minimal furniture, single desk, wall screens asleep. A lone lamp casts a cone of warm light over a neat arrangement of files, the analog kind that smell faintly of dust and old ink. The hum of the ocean comes through the glass as a constant low argument. I tell myself to look for the market map, ports, names, routes. Instead, my fingers pick up a folder because the tab wears a mark I know like a bruise you keep pressing. Project UO. The paper's cool. The first page is clinical handwriting pretending to be neutral. Protocols. Outcomes. Then a list, a column of numbers and names that slide into each other, until one stands up and looks me in the eye. Kael, Nix. The room tilts. Not the building, the world. Memory offers back the smell of antiseptic and the taste of metal on a tongue too young to know what to call it. A ceiling light humming at a frequency that still lives under my skin. The outline of a face behind glass, blurred into function. I don't remember lowering myself into the chair. The paper edges bite my fingers because I'm holding too tight. My wristband hums, a small, mean heartbeat. The door doesn't make a sound, but the air does that thing it does when Lyon walks into it. gains weight, steadies. He steps into the pool of lamplight without looking surprised. Maybe nothing surprises him. Maybe he saves it for emergencies. You knew? The words come raw. You knew? I suspected, he says, and the calm costs him something. I can hear the receipt tearing. Now I'm sure. I stand, the chair legs scrape, a human noise too loud for the room. You brought me here knowing I was... The word won't shape itself. A line item. His gaze flicks to the page in my hand, then back to my face. I brought you here because our cells leak and our colleagues sell. And because whoever wrote that file wants you back. Comforting, I say. Dizzy with a kind of fury that tastes like copper. Do you collect people, or problems? Both, he says. But I try to return the people intact. For a second a lamp hum is the only sound between us. I could break something. It wouldn't help. He steps closer, not close enough to crowd. There's a courier tonight, he says. He's nervous enough to talk. You want answers? He may have some. You bringing your pet project to show and tell? I ask. If you're done breaking into my office, he says, almost mild. I thought you might like to break into someone else's. The words knock a crooked smile out of me. I drop the folder, the papers settle like tired birds. Fine. Let's go make friends. The city after midnight has a second skin. Wet, reflective, more honest. We take a low black car that moves like a rumor through the streets. Lyon drives with the kind of control that looks like patience, but is really hunger on a leash. I watch the rain lay down silver stitches across the windshield and count intersections to keep from thinking about the name in the file. The docks smell like rust and old money. Containers stack like dark teeth. A single bulb dangles over a loading bay, fussed at by moths that wear coats made of rain. Our contact is where scared men always are, too visible and not enough. He sees us and flinches. No cops, he says, which is cute, given the badge Lyon doesn't wear. No theater, Lyon answers. Names. Routes. Who's paying for the U-series runs? The courier's eyes skitter. You don't know what you're asking. I do, Lyon says, and the steadiness in his voice is a blade set on a table. Say it. Riv. The courier starts, and then the bullet takes the air where the rest of the word would be. It slaps the bulb to darkness. The rain turns the world to static. Lyon is moving before the sound finishes arriving, a hand at my shoulder, shoving me behind a stack of crates. Another shot bites metal and screams it down the row. 2 o'clock, I say, and he's already there. The ghost of a shape unfolding from shadow. He returns fire, clean, controlled. I'm already sliding to the side, low, fast. The inhibitor buzzing like a swarm. Someone curses in a language of panic and gun oil. The courier bolts. I go after him on instinct. I'm good at chasing people who want to run, because I've always been one of them. Footfalls slap water, breaths stitch the spaces between siren lonely gull cries. A figure ahead draws a bead on Lyon's moving silhouette. I don't think. I hit him from the side. The shot goes wild, biting sparks from a rail post. We roll in a cold splash of dock water and fish stink. My elbow meets a rib with satisfying clarity. He swings the gun back toward my face. Lyon! I shout. Down, he answers. I drop. His shot takes my attacker in the shoulder. Mine takes his gun to the water. The man folds, groaning, rain erasing him to a smear. I look up and there's a second silhouette between the cranes, muzzle flash blooming like a sick flower. It's aimed at Lyon, the line clean, the math perfect. I launch. My shoulder hits Lyon's ribs, and we go into the wet hard together. The bullet splits the air where his head had been, a straight white scratch in the rain. We hit concrete. Pain rings my arm like a bell. For a breath, we don't move. His hand is on my back, steady, the way you hold something breakable even if it keeps proving it isn't. The world recalibrates into sounds. Rain, a distant engine, the whimper of a man rethinking his career. You're soaked, I say into his shoulder, because my mouth needs to do something stupid or I'll do something worse. You're alive, he says. Voice intact. Breath measured. We're even. Not yet, I say, and push up. The last shooter is already gone, shadow into shadow. We collect what we can, a phone, a name half-typed into a note that will matter later. The courier is breathing. Lyon calls it in with a neutral tone that gives nothing away to whoever is listening. He looks at me once. Rain caught in his lashes like silver filings. Back at the car, he opens the passenger door and waits as if the storm might change its mind. I get in because I'm cold, not because I'm obedient. The heater exhales. He checks my arm with competent fingers, and the inhibitor chooses that moment to hum a sad little lullaby. You saved my life, he says, like he's filing it in the correct drawer. Don't get attached, I say, because humor is cheaper than honesty. He starts the car. Too late. Out on the water, lightning sketches the horizon. The ocean keeps arguing with the land. We pull away from the docks, the night folding back over the scene like a seal on an envelope. Somewhere behind us, a name waits to be said out loud. And between us, something else begins. Not trust, not yet. But the idea of it, rehearsing. The hangar is a cathedral to bad ideas. Corrugated steel ribs, concrete nave, and pews made of stacked laboratory crates. The air tastes like old salt and diesel. The cold light from the overhead floods turns everything the color of surgical steel. Lyon kills the engine, and the headlights die with a sigh. We keep it quiet, he says, already in motion. I'm a whisper, I promise, hopping down. My boots crunch through salt grit. The inhibitor thrums along my pulse like a metronome that thinks it's in charge. We slip between pallets wrapped in clouded plastic. Every stack bears a stencil, triangle inside a circle, then a short run. Of numbers, 17 to 9, 17 to 11, 18 to 2. Shipments like calendar squares on a life I didn't sign up for. Lyon gestures to a skid of crates. Tell me what you see. I crouch. The ink catches the light in a way that says it wasn't meant to last long. Cheap solvent, fast turnover. But someone still signed their work. Lower right corner, a sliver of an emblem disguised as a scratch. If I blur my eyes, it resolves into a caduceus with one snake missing and an extra bar through the staff. Counterfeit medical, I say. But proud of it. Roots? The triangle's the port. The circle's the customs broker. Half legitimate, half pet charity. Numbers are the treatment batch. 17th District, 9th run. I tap another crate. 11. 2. And this? He points to a smaller symbol, barely the size of a thumbnail, 2 parallel. Lines with a dot above like a punctuation mark with an ego. I go still. It's the kind of mark you only notice if someone trained you to see it. The way they trained me, once upon a white room. Veil, I say. And my voice doesn't sound like mine. Corporate logistics branch. They hide in their own freight. Lyon's gaze flicks to me, quick and sharp. You're sure? I'm sure. The smell hits next. Faint under diesel and mold, but there, antiseptic. And citrus, cleaned too many times to hide the rot underneath. My stomach twists. The hangar blurs into another room, walls too white, sound too clean. Hands in gloves moving like they belong to someone else. The taste of metal. Nix. Lyon's voice is low, anchor-weighted. With me. I blink the present back into focus. I'm with you. He steps closer to one of the crates, runs a gloved finger under the lip, finds tape where there shouldn't be tape. He looks at me like a teacher testing a student. Your move. Fine. I inhale, slow. The air layers out, machine oil, salt, cardboard dust, and under it, chemistry. Faint trails curve through the space like chalk lines only my nose can read. Alpha, beta, fear, boredom. 3 guards to the east door. One's chewing mint to mask anxiety. Another's been sleeping in his van, and there's a scent signature I know. My mouth goes dry. From before. Show me. We thread deeper into the maze. My feet choose tile squares that aren't there. The scent is a ghost at first, then a hand on the back of my neck, crisp, sterile, bitter. The room narrows around me. My breath shortens the way it did when a mask came down, and the world shrank to a tube and a countdown. White. Light. Needle. The inhibitor buzz ratchets up as my pulse sprints. I reach for the crate to steady myself and my fingers come away shaking. Breathe, Lyon says, steady, close, but not touching. In for 4. Out for 6. I don't. The word won't fit past my teeth. Panic starts to bloom, ugly and efficient. The bracelet tightens. Not physically, but the way a trap tightens when it's confident it owns you. Heat slides up my spine, cold meets it halfway, the chemistry spikes. I do something stupid. I hook a nail under the clasp and yank. The inhibitor band is meant to resist, but it's still designed by lawyers. There's a fail break in case of injury. It snaps with a sharp little bark. Static bites my wrist. For a heartbeat the world goes silent, then every sense widens like a mouth. Feral, foolish relief surges. Oxygen tastes like metal and rain. My scent spikes in the air, hot and undeniable. And the hanger inhales it. Lyon goes very still. Even the lights seem to wait. The wave rolls off me like a heat mirage. It butcher knives through the oil and salt and antiseptic. It writes my name on the room with a pen the size of weather. I brace on the crate, fighting the instinct that says push closer, test the cage, see who breaks first. Lyon takes one step. My instincts scream yes. He stops. We stand there inside something dangerous and private, both pretending it's air. Don't, he says softly. And it isn't to me, it's to himself. His jaw works, his nostrils flare once. Pain folds into discipline until it becomes something like prayer. One more step and I forget who the hunter is, and who the prey. The words land like a hook catching skin, not to yank, but to warn. Shame and relief tangle. My hands don't know what to do, so they curl against the crate until my knuckles blanch. I laugh because the alternative is something I don't want to name. You're teaching an omega to hunt, I say, voice rough. Symbolic. You're just too loud to go unnoticed, he answers, a ghost of dry humor smuggled into control. We wait the wave out together, counting silently. Gradually the chemistry stops trying to set the room on fire. The world shrinks back to a sensible size. My wrist stings, a thin red welt rings the place the bracelet used to be. Lyon hands me a spare band from an inner pocket, sleek, dark, the safety seal unbroken. I meet his eyes. We don't need to talk about what just happened, we are already talking about it. Later, he says. Later, I echo, and click the new cuff on with a sound that feels too loud in my chest. We open a crate. Inside, beneath a layer of innocuous filters, sit rows of neatly packed ampoules and a black hard case stamped with that sly half caduceus. I peel back foam, and there it is, a data wafer labeled with a code that makes my spine remember the wrong bed. UO. Batch, 18-2. Veil wants their inventory back, I say, steady enough now to be angry again. And they're using the docks as a bloodstream. Lyon nods once. We'll clot it. Sirens unfurl far away, somebody tripped something. He seals the case, passes it to me. We move. The hangar becomes hallways, then the night, then the car. Behind us, the cold light keeps shining like judgment. Out on the road, I cradle the hard case like a bad omen I refuse to drop. Lyon glances at my wrist where the new band sits, untested. You all right? He asks, without looking away from the slick ribbon of asphalt. No, I say honestly. But I'm here. He drives a little faster, as if the word here requires speed to remain true. The ocean keeps its argument with the land, the city keeps its secrets. And somewhere ahead, a name waits for us to say it out loud. By the time the house exhales into its 3 a.m. lull, I've counted the camera blinks enough to name them. The new inhibitor sits on my wrist like a polite lie. I find the blind corner between 2 hall lenses, slide the window latch with a strip of plastic cut from a takeout lid, and drop into the wet dark. The cliff trail is a rumor stitched into rock. Fog drifts up from the sea and lays a hand over everything. The world narrows to 5 steps of vision and the hiss of the tide eating the shore. My breath pulls knives in and lets salt steam out. Every muscle has something to say about last night's sprint through gunmetal rain. Run, says the part of me that always wins. Run until the map runs out. Run until you're only lungs and choices. The path kinks around a jut of basalt and stops pretending to be a path. Below, the beach is a band of bruised sand and black stones polished to a liar's shine. I climb anyway, palms taking souvenirs in the form of scrapes. At the bottom the cold gets personal, fog beads on my eyelashes, the wind turns my shirt into an argument I'm losing. I listen for engines, for shouts, for the sound of a man who files metal with his voice. I get the ocean instead, insisting on its drama. When he comes, it's not with sirens or the choreography of a squad. It's boots on wet stone, paced like a patience exercise. Lyon steps out of the fog as if it's his to part, coat open, hair damp, eyes the color of a winter bay. There's no weapon in his hands. That would be easier. We face each other between a dead log and a half-drowned rope of kelp. Somewhere to our left, a gull laughs like a bad friend. I could say I'm out for a walk, I offer. You could, he says, voice low enough not to jar the morning. But you're not. Your cameras need new hobbies. Your windows need new latches. He looks at my hands, takes inventory, split knuckle, sandburned palm. The corner of his mouth doesn't move, and still manages to imply disapproval. We stand in the fog while the waves practice arriving and failing. It's cold enough to make decisions. You going to drag me back? I ask. No. He glances at the cliff path, then back to me. You coming? I should say no on principle. I should sprint until my lungs bloom with rust. Instead I nod, because the cliff looks taller on the way up and because whatever is wired wrong in me keeps choosing the difficult door. We climb without speaking. He doesn't touch me. Not even when I slip and hiss a curse through my teeth. At the top the house waits with its lights dimmed and its windows closed like eyes pretending to sleep. He leads me in through a service door, not the grand glass. The kitchen is warm from the timed systems, underfloor heat, the soft purr of the kettle thinking about being useful. Lyon gestures to a stool, turns the tap, rinses grit off my hands with water as close to body temperature as plumbing allows. He doesn't flinch at the blood-tinged swirl. Cotton, antiseptic. A steadying palm under my wrist. You could lecture me, I say, watching his hands. About choices, protocol, curfew. I could, he agrees. And I'd rather you not associate my voice with punishments. He wraps gauze with unapologetic competence. Hold still. The kettle clicks. He moves like he's memorized the room in another life. 2 cups, a jar of honey. The color of late afternoon, a slice of lemon thin enough to see through. Steam puts a new roof on the air. He sets 1 cup in front of me, drops a spoonful of honey in mine, and none in his, as if he's read my file down to the childish part. Why aren't you locking me up? I ask, fingers curled around the heat. Because if you want to leave you will, he says. He leans his hip against the counter. And because locks can make people stupid. Some people, I say, sipping. The honey runs a sweet line down the inside of me. The world softens a fraction, like someone threw a blanket over sharp furniture. Not me. He gives me a look that says especially you without the cruelty of saying it. Why didn't you? I gesture vaguely at the cliff, at the house, at my wrist. I've seen what enforcement looks like. He takes his time answering, the way he takes his time bleeding. You're not a case study to me, he says. You're a person in the middle of a thing. I can hold you without holding you down. The words land in my chest and start building a nest they have no right to build. I set the cup down too carefully. Why didn't you lock the door? I ask, finally. Because if you want to go, a locked door only gives you something to break, he says. He meets my eyes. There's no sermon in it. You stayed. Semantics. I came back. It counts. He drops a thin slice of lemon into his tea and watches it spin once, twice, then settle. The kitchen light softens the angles of his face. The fog at the windows turns. The world outside into a smudged painting that doesn't require decisions. He checks the band at my wrist with 2 fingers, not touching skin, just the device, as if that distinction matters. Too tight? Just right, I say. Because lying is easy, and telling the truth is a mortgage. We drink in silence. The house hums a lullaby at a frequency you only hear after a night like this. My hands stop wanting to shake. The honey does a slow, convincing job of stitching me back together. He rinses the cups when we're done. Stacks them with the quiet competence of someone who puts things where they belong. On the way to the door he pauses, not quite turning. Next time, he says, wake me. I roll my eyes because it's safer than thanks. To escort me to my escape? To make the tea hotter when you get back. He leaves me with the towel and the fog and the sound of the ocean, remembering how to breathe. I sit a long time in the warm kitchen, band humming at my pulse like a reasonable boundary. He doesn't hold me by force. So why am I not running? The storm hits first in the data. I'm in the archive room. If you can call a glass cage lined with humming servers an archive. It smells faintly of ozone and sleep deprivation. The house is quiet. Even the ocean's been filed under background noise. I'm supposed to be decrypting shipment logs, but the screen blinks once. Wrong color, wrong rhythm. A private signal. One only 2 people in this world could still send me. Mira. The line opens with static, then text crawls across my terminal, half corrupted. You're in the list. Protocol 17. They're moving. GET out. The cursor blinks like a pulse. I type fast, forcing the encryption layer into place. Rerouting through ghost servers that technically don't exist anymore. Where are you? Mira, not safe to say. They're tracing Veil assets. You're one. They think Lyon's compromised. He's not. Mira, then he's next. The connection collapses, hard cut, as if someone took scissors to the cable. I sit there, the glow of the monitors washing everything the color of panic. My pulse feels mechanical. The cursor still blinks, mocking me. I start a secondary channel, old messy code we wrote back when we thought being clever made us untouchable. The signal chokes halfway. No confirmation ping, no Mira. Then, footsteps. The door slides open with its usual perfect hiss. Lyon stands in the frame, sleeves rolled, expression unreadable. The reflection of the monitors cuts across his face like bars. "What are you doing?" he asks. Not loud, worse than loud. "Running a check," I say. My voice almost passes for calm. "On whose authority?" I spin the chair to face him. "Mine?" He crosses the threshold, gaze flicking to the half-decoded fragments on the screen. "You're using my servers as a relay. You're using me as bait," I snap. "So don't pretend you're shocked I bit the hook." His jaw tightens, but his tone stays low. "You think I'd risk this operation by—" "I think you'd risk me," I cut in. "Because it gets you results. Because I'm convenient." Something breaks, not in his face but behind it. The silence stretches until it thins into something sharp. "I kept you alive," he says. "You kept me contained. I kept you safe from them. And who keeps me safe from you?" We stare at each other across the glow of machinery. He's too composed, and that composure hurts worse than yelling would. The fans whisper, my heartbeat tries to sync with their rhythm and fails. "This isn't about trust," he says finally. "It's about survival." "Then maybe they're the same thing," I say, grabbing the portable drive from the port. The file transfer's still at 60%, incomplete but enough to trace. "And I'm done surviving on your terms." I shoulder past him. He doesn't stop me. Maybe he's too controlled. Maybe he's letting me hang myself with all the freedom he swears I have. The corridor feels longer tonight. The glass walls throw back pieces of me I don't recognize. By the time I reach the outer hall, the fog outside the windows is pressing against the panes like it wants in. The front door recognizes my ID before I can decide if leaving is a good idea. The lock clicks. The ocean's voice gets louder. I don't look back. Outside, the wind has teeth. It tastes of rain and salt and the kind of electricity that means something's about to go wrong. I head down the drive, the portable drive in my pocket knocking against my thigh like a second heartbeat. The road curves toward the industrial quarter. Toward Answers, maybe. Halfway there, the headlights find me. Too bright, too still. Not Lyon's car. 3 silhouettes step out, black windbreakers, gloves. One carrying a syringe case that flashes briefly under the beam. Veil's people, polished, clinical, efficient. I back up once. Twice. Looking for space that doesn't exist. "Easy, Nix," one of them says. Voice filtered through a comm mask. "You've been recalled. Company wants its prototype." I laugh, breathless. "You'll need a receipt." Then the first one moves. The world blurs. The wind eats my next word. I get one hit in, good, sharp, satisfying, and then something catches my neck, cold and precise. The fog folds over me, the cliff lights smear. I hear the ocean one last time, rising, falling, relentless, and think, he'll come. Then, everything goes quiet. I come back like a bad signal, in shards, out of order. Ceiling first, panels of frosted plex with a grid of LEDs humming in a pitch. That used to make me cry when I was small enough to be lifted with one hand. Then the smell, antiseptic so clean it circles around to rotten. The iron tang of old blood hidden under citrus disinfectant. Then the restraints, soft, expensive, unforgiving. My wrists and ankles are fixed in gray cuffs that pretend to be humane. A face leans into the frame. White mask. Clear shield. Eyes, like polished pebbles. The mask speaks in a gentle, supervisory tone that makes my skin try to climb off my bones. "Welcome back, Nix." "Hard pass," I say. My tongue feels like it was stored in a freezer. Do I get a mint or just the bill? The mask's owner smiles with his eyes. It doesn't reach anything human. "I'm Dr. Veil. We spoke years ago." "Pretty sure I screamed," I say. Not really a conversation. He glances to his left where a wall of screens mirrors me at unflattering angles. Heart rate, blood, oxygen, bands of color graphing chemistry as if feelings could be measured into compliance. Another screen shows a schematic of a bracelet, the inhibitor, rotating like a museum piece. Mine is missing. In its place is a clear tube taped to my arm, dripping. Something that makes my insides choose between floating and sinking. "You're not He searches for a word as if it might make this civilized. Standard Nix, you never were. Human covers a wide range. You sit at a useful edge of it. Useful. My lips curl. That's one way to say unattractive liability. Adaptant, he corrects softly, pleased with the syllables. Your endocrine receptors learn to accommodate multiple alpha profiles without destabilizing. The body adjusts. The bond potential remains plastic. You are exemplary. Prototype, I say. Say it with me, pro-to-type. He tilts his head in mild disappointment, as if I'd broken a toy we both liked. The market misused you. We will not. We will measure you. He gestures, and a panel slides back, revealing the thing I promised myself I would never look at again. A row of vertical capsules, 5 of them occupied, small bodies curled like commas in amniotic light. Electrodes like spider legs. Tiny breaths fogging the inside in slow, brave circles. My chest hollows out. The room tunnels. A memory rises like a bubble boiled from the floor of me. A boy's hand against glass. A voice. Saying hush. It's just a study. A needle shining with the kind of attention that means harm. Stop. I hear myself say. It's more to the past than to him. Early stage trials. Veil murmurs. Admiring as a gardener naming roses. Iterating from your data. We had to rebuild. The first facility was compromised. Burned, I say. By people who didn't like the smell. He doesn't answer. He doesn't have to. I flex my wrists. The cuffs don't give. The 4 hums industry. The screens now graph a wave I know. The beginning of panic dressed as numbers. A nurse moves at the edge of my vision, checking a vial. Bad idea. Doctor, she asks. Begin the panel, Veil says, turning away. Before the chemistry gets theatrical, the nurse reaches for the console. I breathe once, deep, shamelessly. Then I do something I learned in a different life, on a bad night with worse company. I convulse like I'm seizing, yank my forearm against the tape hard enough to tear skin, and spit the mouthguard they were considerate. Enough to wedge in, straight at the sensor wand she's holding. It hits. The wand drops. Her reflex sends it skittering under the console. She ducks. I wrench again. The force slips, fluid spatters the monitor. The drip line tangles in the bedrail. The machine screams it's hurt. Veil barks a code. 2 techs move. I buck once more. Harder, wrong, right. And the cuff on my left wrist slips. Just enough for me to twist my hand free at a cost I'll feel tomorrow. I lunge for the emergency release lever at the side of the table. Every humane restraint has one, thank the lawyers, and slam it with the heel of my hand. Everything unlatches at once. Contain him, Veil says, no longer gentle. I roll off the table, hit cold tile, and take the 4-pole with me. A tech grabs my shoulder. I gift him my forehead in return. The nurse reaches for a syringe. I knock the tray, and the ampoules go glittering. One pops under a heel. Chemical slick, sharp and floral. Alarms commit to the bit. The room goes red, then white. The oxygen feed stutters, trying to decide what emergency it wants to believe in. My hands find the underside of the console. Wires bundled like veins. I pull. The sparks that answer are small, furious suns. A smoke thread climbs the wall and makes a plan for the ceiling. Stop him! Veil snaps, frustration ripping through the professional tone like claws through paper. Something cold kisses my neck, another needle finding home. I elbow backward without aiming and meet ribs. A breath goes out of someone in a rush. The needle slides free. A drop of blood beads like punctuation, then the fire finally remembers how to be fire. It licks the oxygen line, grins, and becomes plural. Heat yawns open under the desk. The smoke alarm howls, a chorus of digital grief. The far door blows inward like a stage direction. He's a silhouette first, then he's Lyon, all black lines and purposeful motion, a rebreather snapped. Over his mouth, eyes bright with a kind of anger that's not for me. He moves through chaos like he wrote it, steps over a fallen tray, and reaches me with 2 hands that have no business being this steady. Up, he says, voice muffled but clear. You came? I ask, stupidly relieved. You waiting? He returns, already pulling me toward the door. No, I say, breath scraping. Just tired of being prey. He holsters his gun without using it, and throws his weight into the crash bar. The corridor beyond is a tunnel of red light and siren. Sprinklers begin their rain, late and theatrical. We run. He keeps a hand at my back, not pushing, balancing, like the kitchen, like the cliff. Like something I shouldn't name where it can hear me. Behind us, Veil shouts orders into a radio. Ahead, a security shutter stutters toward the floor. Lyon swears into his mask, lunges, and slides under. I drop, slide, skin my shoulder, and bite my tongue to keep from yelping. He catches my elbow and we're up again. Left, I say, trusting the old map of the docks that lives under my skin. Service stair, 2 landings. Door with a rust halo. He doesn't ask how I know. We hit the stairwell and take it 3 steps at a time. The rebreather makes his breath sound mechanical. Mine sounds feral. At the bottom, the door with the rust halo resists exactly once before Lyon persuades it. The dock night hits like a slap. Wind, salt, smoke trailing from a vent like a guilty secret. Flames lick at a stack of pallets near the wall. A klaxon bleats its last. A boat horn answers out on the water. Impatient. We sprint along the edge of the quay. Behind us, men collect themselves into pursuit. One raises a weapon. Lyon turns, aims, and shoots a fire extinguisher canister on the wall beside him. It erupts in a tantrum of foam, blinding white. The shooter coughs profanity. Show off, I gasp. Results, he says, and keeps me moving. The last stretch is a film we've both seen. Night, heat. The taste of adrenaline coppering the mouth. My legs decide they have notes. The world tilts. Lyon notices a half-breath before I do. Without ceremony he scoops me up. One arm under knees, one around shoulders. Like we rehearsed this in a life where I weighed less, and trusted more. Put me down, I protest. Reflex trying to save a dignity I misplaced back at the needle. You'll have it back in 10 seconds, he says. I want you breathing for them. For who? For you, he says simply, and runs. We hit the far gate as a coil of smoke writes question marks in the sky. He shoulders it open. The night beyond is loud with sirens and gulls, and the kind of wind that forgives nothing. He doesn't put me down until the car door is open, and the engine is arguing with itself about mercy. I'm laughing when he sets me in the seat. A raw, ridiculous sound that feels like choosing the wrong response on purpose. Lyon rips the rebreather off and tosses it. His face is flushed, wet with rain or sprinkler or both. Seatbelt? He orders. Yes, Dad. He slams the car into gear. As we shoot down the pier, the lab behind us coughs flame into the sky like a dragon choking on its own smoke. I lean my head back and close my eyes, because the world is briefly too much and also not enough. You okay? He asks, eyes on the slick ribbon of road. No, I say, honest for once. But I'm not on the table. That's progress. He nods, just once, the way he nods at a solved problem he didn't expect to like. Out on the water, the dark breathes. The fire paints the clouds a false dawn. We drive into it like idiots who made the right mistake. The leak breaks the city before dawn. Phones vibrate on pallets and in guard pockets, screens flaring with mirrors dump, emails, invoices, lab footage shot through tinted glass. The symbol with the missing snake crawls across 1,000 timelines. Names bloom like bruises, donors, buyers, Veil's executive tree. By the time we reach the port hangar, the panic has a smell. Ozone from overheated servers, fear sweat wearing cologne. They'll shred evidence, Lyon says, cutting the engine. His face has that pre-battle stillness I've started to mistake for comfort. They'll shred us, I counter, and grin because fear tastes better if you season it. Inside, the hangar is a neon cathedral mid-apocalypse. Forklifts kneel crooked where their operators abandoned them. Drums lie on their sides like seals in a storm. Labels half torn, corrosive, flammable, medical. The floodlights strobe, undecided. It smells like rain that went to college for chemistry. Veil stands on a catwalk above the chaos, one hand on the rail, a radio pressed to his ear. He's traded the mask for a manager's calm, tie-knotted, hair tolerably human. 2 security teams triangulate below, their attention trying and failing to be everywhere. He sees us. Something pleased passes over his face, like a man whose missing piece arrives right on schedule. Prototype, he calls down. And handler, doctor, I say, stepping into the open. Your Yelp reviews are going to be rough. Lyon's hand ghosts my shoulder and drops. He lets me be visible, and makes himself inevitable. Hands where I can see them, he orders. No shout. Steel set lightly on the tongue. Or what? Veil spreads his fingers in a pantomime of surrender. Around us safeties click. You'll arrest me on camera? Your department is name-checked 6 times in the leak. 7, I say. You forgot the dummy charity. He smiles, admiring my memory the way a butcher admires marbling. We built you well. Build. The word lands ugly. Under my skin, chemistry wakes. The inhibitor band tightens in warning, an electronic scold. The air tastes like metal shavings. Don't, Lyon says quietly. Not trying to, I answer also quietly, and mean it. But fear is a solvent, and the leak has turned the city into a wire. Veil gestures. Security moves. We move first. The opening is messy, shouts Ricochet, footsteps miscount. Lyon's gun speaks in private syllables, controlled, persuasive. I go low, fast, behind a stack of crates because I was built to survive corners. A guard lunges, I introduce his wrist to a crate edge and his gun to the floor. We trade elbows, mine honest, his hopeful. He folds. On the catwalk, Veil retreats toward a side door, radio hissing. Secondary purge, he says to someone, somewhere. Initiate protocol. 17? I shout up. Heard of it. He stops just long enough to look at me like a thesis he's still proud of. You always were a quick study. The first drum pops, belching a white hiss into the air. Coolant, propellant. Something that mistakes lungs for home. The floodlights choose drama, and go full noon. The inhibitor flares so cold it burns. The wave hits like a car crash. Heat whips through me, then cold, then both. My scent spikes, raw, directionless, the kind of signal that doesn't ask permission. The hangar inhales me, guards, Lyon, even Veil pauses, the discipline around his eyes crinkling into something close to fascination. The inhibitor squeals, a thin electronic scream. The world oversaturates, edges yellow, sound gains teeth. Knees, gone. Floor, nearer. Hands catch me that have practiced this. Lyon pulls me into the lee of a pallet stack. Makes a wall out of himself without making a cage. Nix, he says, and the way he says it steadies something I didn't vote for. Stay with me. Trying. The word scrapes. My heart is an alarm in a building on fire. This wasn't. I didn't. I know. His palm finds the back of my neck, heel of his hand grounding where the spine shouts. Not possessive. Present. Breathe. Around us, the battle keeps being itself. Muzzle flashes flour and wilt. Mira's leak pings in a dozen pockets. Someone swears they'll kill the messenger. Then trips over a drum labeled corrosive and reconsiders all life choices. On the catwalk, Veil barks new orders. A shutter grinds open on the far wall. Lab corridor yawning like a throat. I have to stop it, I manage. He'll rebuild. You will not go up there alone. Lyon's voice is iron wrapped in velvet. Look at me. I do. His pupils are blown. His breathing is measured like he's counting it out on a metronome only he can hear. He is not unaffected. He is choosing. I'm not marking, he says. Words slow and deliberate so they lodge. I'm saving. Something inside me, a coil always braced for the jerk, unclenches a millimeter. The wave still runs, but it stops trying to drown. I hate you a little, I admit. It sounds like gratitude from a mouth that doesn't know how. Acceptable, he says, and stands, drawing me up with him. Left flank. Catwalk stare. We move together, a choreography stitched out of need. I take the lower steps 2 at a time, he covers, a dark shape keeping stupid bullets from my soft parts. A guard rounds the corner, I step into him, smell his fear spike, pivot him over the rail. He chooses not to die, and clings to a beam, cursing his gods. At the top, Veil meets us with a syringe instead of a gun. Easy, he says. Voice smooth even now. You'll tear. Good, I say, and kick the syringe from his hand. He goes for my throat. Lyon goes for his wrist. They collide at a range men weren't meant to fight at. The syringe skitters under a grate. Veil headbutts with scientist efficiency. I catch his coat, and ram him into the bulkhead so hard a rivet complains. Look, I tell him, weirdly calm, at what you made. I am, he says, and for once he sounds almost human. The floor shudders. For a second I think it's my pulse. Then the second drum lets go. A bloom of vapor punches the hangar. A memory of flame licks the ceiling. Someone screams backdraft and means it. Lyon shoves us both toward the stair, as the world decides to change shape. We tumble down metal steps into a storm of white rain, sprinkler foam laced with something that loves skin too much. It stings where I'm raw, it stings where I'm not, The floodlights flicker, reconsider, die. Darkness shears the room. Emergency strips paint the floor bruise red. The lab door across the hangar belches a final gout of fire, and then collapses into itself with a sigh like a building giving up. Out. Lyon orders, voice cutting clean through static. His hand finds mine and doesn't ask. We run blind and somehow right. The hangar door judders as if it also would like to live. We slip through while it decides. Outside, night breathes wet and chemical. Behind us, the lab's roof lifts enough to exhale a sheet of sparks. The light goes out all at once, like a throat cut. We stand in the after silence. My breath saws. His grip is still on my hand, not tight, just there. Sirens gather on the horizon, tasting the wind. Still with me? He asks. Unfortunately, I say, and then, quieter, yes. He squeezes once, an answer and a promise, and lets go only when the first responder lights paint us in the truth. The world smells of salt and smoke, but the smoke is memory now. I wake to the sound of waves folding themselves against the cliff, slow and lazy, as if the ocean has finally forgiven us both. The ceiling above me is familiar, wood slats, pale light threading through them. The same pattern I stared at on the first night I didn't sleep here. I'm still in one piece. The air tastes clean. The bracelet that used to hum around my wrist is gone. For a long time I just breathe. Outside, gulls argue with the horizon. A window is open. The curtains lift and fall like they're practicing breathing too. My body complains in places that mean I'm alive. My mind hasn't decided yet. When I step onto the terrace, the morning hits me full in the face. Cool, sharp, honest. The sea is a mirror pretending to be calm. And there he is, leaning against the railing like someone who's finally allowed to rest. Lyon, in the same black shirt but no gloves this time. Bare hands, quiet eyes. He doesn't turn right away. You're supposed to be in bed, he says, voice soft enough not to scare the peace away. I got bored. My throat still sounds like smoke. And I wanted to make sure this wasn't heaven. You're still talking, he says. So, no. I join him at the railing. The wind pushes my hair into my eyes. The ocean stretches endless, blue and unforgiving. You could have left me there, I say after a while. He looks at me. You could have run again. We meet halfway in a silence that feels less like distance, more like truce. Guess we're both terrible at habits, I add, half smile curling on instinct. Some are worth breaking, he answers. The corners of his mouth twitch, almost warmth. I hold up the old inhibitor, the one he found burned and useless after the lab went up. Its once sleek surface is cracked, wires exposed like veins that refuse to stay hidden. For a second, the thing looks almost sad, like an old story that doesn't know it's over. This kept me in line, I say. It kept you alive, he corrects gently. Same thing back then. He watches me turn it over in my hand, eyes tracing the motion like it matters. Maybe it does. The morning light catches the ruined metal and throws a line of silver across his bare wrist. No gloves. No barriers. Go on, he says. So I do. I pull my arm back and send the bracelet into the air. It arcs once, bright as a coin flipped by a god, then disappears into the waves below. The splash is small, unimportant. But the sound it leaves behind, absence, is clean. We stand there, listening to it fade. Lyon speaks first. What will you do now? Eat breakfast, I say, because anything else would be too big. Then, quieter, after that? I don't know. Something that isn't running. He nods like that's the right answer, or at least an honest one. Then you'll stay? For now? The words surprise me with how right they feel. The breeze lifts again, and for a heartbeat, I think I smell the ghost of antiseptic, of wire and fear. But it's gone before I can blink. The sea takes it, like it took the bracelet, like it will take everything eventually. Lyon rests his forearms on the railing, bare skin against morning steel. Freedom suits you, he says. Don't jinx it, I mutter, but my chest feels lighter. He looks at me sidelong, and there's something unspoken there, gratitude maybe, or understanding, the kind that doesn't need ownership to exist. I watch the sunlight walk across the waves, the pale shimmer that turns even salt water into gold for a few seconds at a time. Maybe that's what freedom is. Not the absence of cages, but the choice to stay where no one is forcing you. And maybe it's the person who stands beside you while the world rebuilds itself, silent, steady, ungloved. The wind shifts, warmer now. I close my eyes, and the sea keeps breathing for both of us.